Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you try, life still spins out of your control? You plan everything perfectly, you work hard, you do the right things, and still, something crashes into your path and throws it all off. It's frustrating, it's exhausting, and it can make you feel powerless, like you're trapped in a storm with no way out, just trying to hold everything together while it all falls apart. But what if the real problem isn't the chaos around you? What if it's the belief that you're supposed to control that chaos in the first place? We've been conditioned to believe that control equals safety, that if we can just manage everything, what people think of us, how the future unfolds, what happens in our relationships, we'll finally feel secure. But that's a lie, and deep down you already know it. You've tried to control things before. You've bent over backward to please people, micromanaged every detail, lost sleep worrying about things far beyond your influence. And still, it never brought peace. It only brought more pressure, more fear, more emptiness. That's because chasing control is like trying to hold water in your hands. No matter how tightly you squeeze, it slips through your fingers. The truth is, most of what we try to control was never ours to begin with. Other people's opinions, the past, the future, unexpected changes, none of that is in your hands. And the more energy you spend fighting reality, the more drained and discouraged you become. But there is another way, a way that doesn't demand that you fix everything, prove yourself constantly, or carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. That way is detachment. Detachment isn't giving up. It isn't quitting or becoming cold. Detachment is choosing to let go of what you can't control, so you can take full command of what you can. Your response, your mindset, your energy, your next step. It's the moment you decide to stop clinging and start living. And when you do, something powerful happens. You feel lighter, clearer, stronger. You begin to breathe again, not because life is suddenly perfect, but because you're no longer trying to force it to be. And that's why this matters. Because your peace, your freedom, your power, they're not found in controlling everything around you. They're found in mastering what's within you. If you're tired of feeling anxious, overwhelmed, or stuck, then keep watching, because the path to true strength, the kind that can't be shaken by outside storms, starts with one choice: to stop grasping for control and start standing in your truth. This is your chance to take that first step, to shift from struggle to surrender, from pressure to peace. And once you taste that freedom, you'll never want to go back. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll know exactly how to let go, and why it will change everything. If you feel heavy right now, it's not because you're weak. It's because you've been carrying things that were never meant to be yours. Other people's problems, their expectations, their opinions of you, the guilt from your past, the fear of your future, the burden of constantly trying to hold everything together. And somewhere in all of that, you've forgotten what it feels like to just be. To breathe without bracing for impact. To exist without feeling like you're failing. You were not made to carry the weight of the world, and the more you try to do it, the more it crushes you from the inside. It's not your job to fix everything. It never was. But your heart, your mind, your soul, they've been taught to believe that if something breaks, it's your fault. If someone's upset, you must have done something wrong. If things don't go as planned, it's because you didn't try hard enough. That lie runs deep, and it creates a life where you constantly apologize for your existence, shrink yourself to keep the peace, and sacrifice your happiness just to feel like you're enough. But that's not peace. That's survival. That's living in fear. And you weren't born to live in fear. You were born to stand tall in your truth, to rise with clarity and strength. But before you can do that, you have to put down what doesn't belong to you. You have to stop trying to control other people's emotions. Stop replaying the past, trying to rewrite it with guilt. Stop obsessing over futures that haven't even happened. Let it go. Not because it doesn't matter, but because you do. Your energy matters. Your mental health matters. Your freedom matters. And carrying what isn't yours only drowns out your ability to show up fully in what is. This is your permission to drop the weight, to breathe, to look around and realize how much lighter life becomes when you stop trying to fix what was never yours to manage. This is where peace begins, not when everything's perfect, but when you stop tying your peace to perfection. You don't need to control everything to be okay. You just need to let go of what doesn't serve your soul. It takes courage to do that. Courage to trust yourself again. Courage to believe that you don't have to earn love by overextending. Courage to realize that your worth isn't tied to your usefulness. But the moment you make that decision to stop carrying the world and start holding yourself, you become unstoppable. You become free. So ask yourself now, what weight have I been carrying that doesn't belong to me? What pain, what pressure, what fear have I mistaken for responsibility? And then, be brave enough to release it. Because only when your hands are empty can they be open. And only when they're open can they receive the life, the peace, the power that's been waiting for you all along. Peace doesn't come from controlling everything around you. It comes from freeing yourself from the need to. When you constantly chase specific outcomes, you tie your happiness to conditions that are always moving. You say, I'll be calm when things go right. I'll feel safe when they act how I expect. I'll be enough when I reach that goal. And so peace stays just out of reach, like a mirage you can't catch. But the truth is, life doesn't bend to your expectations. People won't always respond the way you want. Situations won't always unfold in the timeline you imagined. And the more you attach yourself to how things should go, the more you suffer when they don't. This isn't about giving up on what you want. It's about shifting your focus from outcome to effort, from grasping to growing, from needing everything to work out your way, to knowing you'll be okay no matter how it turns out. When your worth, your joy, and your inner calm are chained to an outcome, you're not living, you're waiting for the outside world to validate your peace. But peace isn't found there. It's built inside you, step by step, as you let go of the need to control and choose instead to trust the process, trust yourself, and trust the timing of your life. The outcome doesn't define you, your character does. The outcome doesn't control you, your choices do. And when you stop needing everything to go perfectly, you start showing up more powerfully. You're no longer desperate, you're present. You're not frantic, you're focused. You start living from a place of strength, not fear. Because your energy is no longer wasted trying to bend reality to your will. It's invested in becoming who you're meant to be, no matter what life throws at you. This mindset changes everything. It gives you the power to stay grounded even in chaos. It gives you resilience when plans fall apart. It gives you freedom from the constant tension of what if. Because you're no longer trying to force life into a mold. It was never meant to fit. You're flowing with it, learning from it, becoming more through it. And that's what real control is. Not over the world, but over yourself. Not over others, but over your energy. You stop reacting to everything. You start responding with purpose. You stop chasing perfection. You start embracing presence. You realize that happiness doesn't come from getting everything right. It comes from releasing what's wrong for you. So let go of your grip on how it should be. You've carried that pressure long enough. Let it break, let it fall, and then stand tall in the space it leaves behind. Because that space, that freedom, is where your true power begins. And once you feel it, once you live from it, you'll never again trade it for the illusion of control. People will disappoint you. They'll misunderstand you. They'll say things you can't forget and do things you never expected. And if you keep tying your peace to how others act, you'll keep getting dragged through their chaos. You'll feel like you're spinning, constantly adjusting yourself just to keep them happy, just to avoid conflict, just to be seen, heard, or loved. But no matter how much you twist yourself to fit someone else's mold, it's never enough. Because people are not yours to control. They never were. And the sooner you stop trying, the sooner you'll find the calm you've been searching for. You don't get to control how others speak to you. You don't get to control their moods, their choices, or how they interpret your actions. But you do get to control how you show up. You get to decide the energy you carry, the tone you use, the boundaries you enforce. And that's where your power is, not in changing people, but in changing how you let them affect you. When someone lashes out, you don't have to internalize it. When someone walks away, you don't have to chase them. When someone rejects you, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means they were never capable of receiving what you had to give. It's not your job to convince people of your worth. It's not your role to fix their wounds or carry their projections. You are not responsible for their healing, their behavior, or their emotions. And trying to be will only drain you of your light. You're here to stand in your truth, to show up with integrity, to live with intention. And that means learning to hold space for others without losing yourself in the process. Let people be who they are. Let them make their choices. Let them walk their path. And you, stay rooted in yours. Because the moment you let go of needing people to be a certain way for you to feel okay, you reclaim the peace they could never give you. You stop living on an emotional leash. You stop letting every word, every silence, every action pull you out of alignment. You rise above the noise. You protect your energy. And you begin to respond from a place of clarity instead of reacting from a place of pain. This is emotional freedom, not controlling others, but mastering yourself. Not forcing connection, but honoring what's real. It's realizing that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is detach. Not to hurt them, but to heal you. Because peace isn't found in the approval of others. It's found in the acceptance of yourself. And when you choose that kind of peace, you'll stop begging for scraps of validation and start walking fully in your worth. You'll realize that the love, the clarity, the calm you've been chasing, was never in their hands. It's always been in yours. When you hold on to what's hurting you, you don't just suffer, you stay stuck. Stuck in loops of overthinking, reliving moments that cannot be changed. Stuck in cycles of tension, always bracing for what might go wrong. Stuck in the past, dragging your old pain into every new beginning. And it's not because you want to suffer, it's because part of you still believes holding on gives you control. You think that by staying angry you protect yourself, that by staying alert you can prevent more pain, that by replaying the past you'll somehow make sense of it. But that's not protection, that's poison. And every time you drink from it, you only deepen your wounds. You don't heal by gripping tighter. You heal by releasing. You heal by accepting that what's done is done, what's gone is gone, and what's meant for you will never require force. You stop bleeding into your future when you stop trying to rewrite your past. You stop exhausting yourself when you surrender the battles that were never yours to fight. Let go, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. You will never find peace in the middle of a war you keep fueling in your own mind. The need to hold on is rooted in fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of losing control, fear of feeling weak. But the truth is, letting go is the highest form of strength. It means you trust yourself enough to face the future without dragging the weight of the past behind you. It means you've stopped bargaining with pain and started choosing yourself. You've stopped clinging to false comfort and started stepping into real freedom. You are not defined by what happened to you. You are not a prisoner of what they said, what they did, or what you couldn't change. You are free to decide who you become, but you can't become new if you keep carrying the old. Every time you let go, you make space. Space for clarity, space for growth, space for peace, and most importantly, space for your true self to rise. You don't need to keep proving how strong you are by suffering through what no longer serves you. You prove your strength by walking away from it, by cutting the cords that keep you bound to what drains you, by choosing peace over pride, healing over revenge, growth over guilt. It's not your job to make everything make sense. It's your job to move forward, even when it doesn't, to rise anyway, to trust anyway. This is the moment you give yourself permission to stop holding on, to breathe again, to stop being loyal to your pain and start being loyal to your future. You don't need all the answers, you just need to take the first step. And when you do, you'll feel it, that shift, that lightness, that strength, the moment you finally set yourself free. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you're giving up or shutting down. It means you finally realize that your peace is too valuable to sacrifice for what you can't control. It means you're no longer willing to waste your energy trying to force what isn't meant, fix what isn't yours, or chase what refuses to meet you halfway. You've outgrown the need to grip tightly. You've learned, sometimes through pain, that holding on can hurt more than releasing ever could. You're not abandoning hope. You're choosing wisdom. You're choosing yourself. Detachment isn't coldness. It's clarity. It's the space between your emotions and your actions. It's the ability to feel deeply and still choose wisely. You can care and still walk away. You can love and still let go. You can grieve and still grow. Emotional detachment doesn't harden your heart. It strengthens your spirit. It allows you to step back without shutting down, to breathe without breaking, to remain rooted while the storm rages around you. Because you've stopped tying your identity to what you can't control. You've stopped defining your worth by things that were never meant to be yours. When you detach, you return home to yourself. You stop waiting for permission to feel okay. You stop begging for validation. You stop handing your power to people who don't know how to hold it. You begin to reclaim the parts of yourself that got lost in the noise. You stop reacting to every shift in someone else's mood. You stop personalizing every silence, every rejection, every twist in the story. You realize that not everything is about you. Not everything needs your attention. Not everything deserves your peace. And when that truth sinks in, something shifts. You stop trying to win battles that don't matter. You stop proving yourself to people who were never listening. You stop pouring into what doesn't pour back. You start protecting your energy like your life depends on it, because it does. Because your focus, your clarity, your calm, your growth, they are all rooted in where you choose to place your attention. When you detach from the chaos, the noise, the opinions, the need to control, you begin to hear your own voice again. And that voice, the quiet one you used to ignore, is where your freedom lives. There is peace in watching without reacting. There is power in caring without clinging. There is healing in choosing yourself, again and again, no matter what the world demands of you. You are allowed to walk away from what drains you. You are allowed to rest from what confuses you. You are allowed to let go of what you've outgrown. And when you do, You'll remember something you forgot in the noise. You were never meant to lose yourself trying to hold on to what was never meant to stay. This is your path now, clear, steady, yours. And you are finally free to walk it. Anxiety is often a signal, not that something's wrong out there, but that something's off within. It's the mind reaching for control in a world that doesn't offer guarantees. It's your nervous system clinging to what-if scenarios, trying to build safety out of worry. But no matter how long you rehearse disaster in your head, it never prepares you for life. It only steals your peace, your focus, your joy. You can't think your way to certainty. You can't worry your way to safety. You can only decide, here and now, to stop feeding the fear and start grounding yourself in what you can control. And what you can control is everything that begins inside of you. Your breath, your attention, your inner dialogue. The way you show up for yourself when everything around you feels unstable. That's your power, not in the outer chaos, but in your inner calm. Because anxiety doesn't come from the present moment. It comes from resisting it. It comes from trying to live in tomorrow while you're still breathing in today. The more you try to predict and prepare for every outcome, the more overwhelmed you become. And the truth is, you don't need to have everything figured out to take the next step. You just need to come back to where your power lives, right here. Right here is where your breath slows. Right here is where the fear loses its grip. Right here is where you remember that most of what you're anxious about hasn't even happened. And if it does, you'll handle it. Not because you're superhuman, but because you're capable. Because you're resilient. Because you've already survived things you once thought would break you. You don't need to fight every thought. You don't need to analyze every emotion. You just need to stop feeding the fear. Let it rise. Let it pass. Let it teach you where you're holding on too tightly. Let it show you where it's time to let go. You are not your anxiety. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. And the moment you stop identifying with the chaos in your mind, you begin to take your power back. You begin to create space between stimulus and response, between fear and action, between tension and truth. That space is where transformation begins. You don't have to live on edge. You don't have to prepare for the worst every minute of every day. You're allowed to exhale. You're allowed to feel safe without everything being perfect. You're allowed to feel peace even while life is uncertain. Because peace doesn't come when the storm ends. It comes when you stop letting the storm live inside you. Let go of the need to control what you can't predict. Anchor yourself in presence. Stand in your breath. Trust your strength. And you will find something more powerful than certainty, inner stability. And once you taste that stillness, you'll stop searching for peace out there, because you'll know it lives within you. You've spent so much time focusing on what you can't control that you've forgotten how powerful you truly are. You've poured your energy into fixing people, changing circumstances, pleasing everyone but yourself. And in the process, you've abandoned the only space where real transformation can happen. Within. You are not powerless. You are simply misdirected. The world taught you to chase everything outside yourself, but your strength has always lived in your response, your focus, your mindset, your habits. When you shift your attention back to what you can command, you begin to rebuild your life from the inside out. You control how you speak to yourself when things go wrong. You control whether you spiral or rise. You control what you consume, how you react, what you believe, how you grow. That's not small. That's everything. When you reclaim that power, even the things you once feared begin to lose their grip. Because you no longer need everything to go your way to feel strong. You've built that strength in your core, and the world can't take that from you. No one else gets to decide how you show up. No one else gets to dictate the meaning you give to failure, discomfort, or rejection. You have the ability to frame your experiences in ways that empower you, not break you. That's what real control looks like. Not managing every outcome, but mastering the energy you bring to the moment. Not predicting the future, but preparing your mind to handle whatever it brings. The world outside may be uncertain, but you can be steady. You can be rooted, you can be clear. Start asking yourself better questions. Instead of why is this happening to me? Ask, what can I learn here? Instead of how do I fix them? Ask, how do I stay in alignment with who I want to be? These shifts change everything. They move you out of survival and into intention, out of reaction and into creation. Because your life doesn't respond to how much you worry. It responds to how much you decide. You don't need to wait for permission to take control of your inner world. You already have it. You don't need everything around you to calm down. You need to stop letting it dictate your peace. This is where your freedom lives. In the space where you stop trying to change everything and start rising above it. In the moment you stop gripping the uncontrollable and start building what's real, what's solid, what's yours. You are not here to manage the chaos of others. You are here to manage your response, your growth, your peace. That's where your true life begins. In the moment you realize that you were never supposed to control everything around you. You were meant to master everything within you. And when you do, nothing out there can shake who you are in here. That's the power you've had all along. You take back your life the moment you stop taking things personally. When someone lashes out, when someone pulls away, when someone misunderstands you, it's not always about you. Most of the time, it's not about you at all. People project their own pain, their own fear, their own insecurities onto the world around them. And if you keep absorbing that energy, if you keep internalizing every shift in their behavior, you will forever be at the mercy of their chaos. You will question your worth, shrink yourself to keep the peace, and abandon your truth just to avoid discomfort. But your peace should never be the price you pay to carry someone else's emotional weight. You were not put here to decode everyone's silence. You were not made to interpret every mood, every glance, every word. You were not built to bend in every direction, trying to avoid conflict or gain approval. That's not strength, that's survival. And you are meant for more than survival. You are meant for clarity. You are meant for peace. You are meant to stand firm in who you are, regardless of who understands you or who doesn't. Because someone else's confusion about your value doesn't mean you need to lower your light. It means they're not ready to see it. Your worth doesn't rise and fall based on someone's ability to recognize it. Your value is not up for negotiation. You are not broken because someone couldn't hold your heart. You are not lost because someone didn't choose you. You are not failing because life didn't go according to plan. You are simply being redirected. You are being challenged to rise above your triggers, to stop reacting to what you can't control, and to stay rooted in your power no matter what comes your way. Let people misunderstand you. Let them judge you. Let them walk away if they must. Your job is not to chase love or force alignment. Your job is to stay true to your spirit, even when it's hard, even when it's lonely, even when it hurts. Because your peace comes from knowing you are not here to carry every emotion that doesn't belong to you. You are not responsible for healing wounds that you didn't create. There is freedom in release. There is strength in choosing stillness over reaction. There is peace in knowing you don't need to fix what's not yours. You are allowed to create distance. You are allowed to protect your energy. You are allowed to walk away from what leaves you drained. And you are allowed to stay centered, no matter how loudly the world pulls at you. Keep showing up with love, with integrity, with presence. But do it for you, not for recognition, not for validation, not for control. Do it because it's who you are. Because when you detach from the noise and root yourself in your truth, no one else's chaos can shake your calm. And that's where real power lives. Quiet, unshaken, unapologetically free. Acceptance is not weakness. It's the deepest kind of strength. It's looking at what is and saying, I will no longer fight reality. Not because you agree with everything, not because you're okay with how things turned out, but because you understand that resistance creates suffering. And peace begins when you stop demanding that the world match your expectations. You've spent too long battling what you can't change, wishing the past was different, wanting people to be who they never chose to become, holding on to pictures in your mind of how it all should have been. But none of that brings peace. It only keeps you locked in pain, locked in stories, locked in a version of life that never existed outside your own mind. When you practice radical acceptance, you stop arguing with reality. You stop delaying your healing by needing everything to make sense. You realize that closure isn't something you get from the outside, it's something you give yourself. You stop saying, it shouldn't have happened this way, and you start asking, now that it has, who will I become? Because transformation never begins with resistance. It begins with clarity, the clarity that says, this is where I am, this is what happened, this is what's mine to carry, and this is what I choose to release. Acceptance doesn't mean you stop growing. It means you stop wasting your growth on things that no longer serve your path. It means you let go of trying to rewrite the past and start writing a new future. One choice at a time, one thought at a time, one breath at a time. You begin to show up for the life that's here, not the one you thought you needed. And that shift, that surrender, opens the door to everything you've been seeking: peace, clarity, stability, freedom. There's nothing passive about acceptance. It takes courage to look pain in the face and decide you won't let it define you. It takes strength to stop resisting what's already happened and start rising through it. And the moment you do, you begin to move forward, not because the pain disappears, but because you stop letting it direct your life. You stop building your identity around what went wrong. You stop needing everything to be fair. And you start choosing peace over perfection. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the author of your next chapter. And no matter what's happened, You have the power to create something beautiful from it, but only if you stop fighting the pages that have already been written. You don't have to forget. You don't have to be okay with it, but you do have to stop letting it own you. Because freedom doesn't come from changing the past. It comes from accepting it and deciding you are no longer bound to it. You are free to begin again, right here, right now. And nothing can stop you from rising, except your refusal to let go. The ego will resist letting go, not because it wants to protect your peace, but because it wants to protect its identity. It clings to the idea of being right. It clings to the need for recognition. It clings to past pain, because in that pain, it feels important. When someone hurts you, the ego says, remember this, hold on to it. You need to stay angry to stay strong. When something doesn't go your way, the ego says this is unacceptable. You need to control this or you're weak. But real strength is not found in the tension of control. It's found in the release of illusion. And the biggest illusion the ego sells you is that you are only powerful when you're holding on. You are not your ego. You are not your anger, your fear, your pride, or your past. You are something deeper, something steady, clear, and grounded. That deeper part of you knows the truth. It knows you don't need to win every argument. It knows you don't need every apology. It knows that peace is more valuable than being right. But the ego wants to fight. The ego wants to prove something. The ego is loud, defensive, and fragile. And if you live through it, your life will always feel like a battlefield. Every misunderstanding will feel like an attack. Every unmet expectation will feel like a betrayal. Every loss will feel like a personal failure. But once you step beyond the ego, you begin to see life through a wider lens. You begin to realize that people aren't rejecting you. They're reflecting their own limitations. You begin to understand that setbacks aren't punishments, they're redirections. You begin to feel your worth as something that doesn't rise or fall based on outcomes. And in that space, you stop reacting. You start observing. You stop chasing. You start aligning. You become less concerned with how things look, and more devoted to how they feel. You stop playing games of control and begin choosing peace over power struggles. This is emotional maturity. When you no longer need to prove your value, when you no longer let your ego make decisions out of fear, when you no longer tie your worth to anything external, you begin to trust your stillness. You begin to find meaning in simplicity. You begin to move differently, with more intention, more grace, and more power. Not the kind of power that dominates, but the kind that doesn't flinch, the kind that doesn't need to control, because it's already free. Letting go of the ego doesn't make you small. It makes you whole. It brings you back to yourself, to the part of you that doesn't need to force anything, to the part of you that leads with calm instead of chaos. This is where peace lives, not in the stories the ego tells, but in the silence beneath them. And once you feel that silence, that deep knowing, you'll stop looking for strength and control. You'll find it in presence. You'll find it in surrender. When you stop chasing control, you start discovering clarity. You begin to see how much of your stress comes not from life itself, but from the constant pressure to manage everything around you, to keep every relationship balanced, to make sure everyone approves, to avoid mistakes, avoid discomfort, avoid failure. But that's not peace, that's performance. And the truth is, no matter how tightly you hold on, life will still move the way it wants. People will change. Circumstances will shift. The unexpected will arrive. And if your inner stability depends on the outer world staying still, you will always be one moment away from falling apart. Peace begins when you no longer require perfection to feel safe. When you no longer need guarantees to take the next step. When you stop waiting for everything to feel right before you begin. Because the most powerful people aren't the ones who control everything. They're the ones who trust themselves in the middle of uncertainty. They know how to move without knowing the whole path. They know how to breathe through pressure. They know how to keep showing up, even when the outcome isn't clear. That's not luck, that's self-trust. And self-trust is built through one choice, releasing the need to control what you never could. You don't need all the answers to feel grounded. You don't need everyone's agreement to move forward. What you need is the courage to meet the unknown without flinching, to walk into each day with a calm mind, knowing that you will respond, not react, that you will adapt, not crumble, that you will rise, not retreat. The more you detach from the illusion of control, the more power you reclaim. Because energy that was once spent overthinking now becomes energy used for building. The time you wasted on worrying becomes time for growing. The mental noise quiets, and in that quiet, clarity speaks. You start asking better questions. Not what if this all goes wrong, but what can I create right now? Not how do I fix everything, but what's within my reach today. That's how you change your life, not by managing the uncontrollable, but by mastering the controllable. Your thoughts, your choices, your focus, your response, and that is where your power lives. Not in outcomes, but in effort. Not in perfection, but in progress. Not in knowing everything, but in trusting yourself through anything. You are not here to control life. You are here to participate in it with wisdom. You are not here to hold everything together. You are here to let go of what weighs you down, so you can rise into who you're meant to be. Your power has never been in control. It has always been in your presence, in your willingness to meet the moment as it is, in your choice to keep going. Not because you control the path, but because you believe in your ability to walk it. There is nothing more exhausting than trying to hold together a life that was never meant to be controlled, trying to predict every outcome, trying to avoid every mistake, trying to please everyone around you just to feel accepted. That isn't strength, that's fear wearing a mask. And eventually, it cracks. Because no matter how hard you try, life will never follow your script. People will do what they choose, circumstances will shift, and reality will unfold in ways you never imagined. When you anchor your peace to something so unstable, it's only a matter of time before you break under the weight of your expectations. But you don't have to keep living like that. You can choose a different foundation, one that doesn't demand control but encourages trust, one that doesn't chase perfection but embraces growth, one that doesn't rely on outcomes but thrives on inner alignment. The most powerful transformation happens the moment you stop resisting what is and start responding from who you are. When you let go of trying to manipulate everything around you, and instead focus on managing the only thing you ever truly own, yourself, you become dangerous in the best way when your peace no longer depends on what other people say or do. When your sense of self-worth is no longer held hostage by someone else's opinion. When your energy is no longer drained by battles that were never yours to fight. That's when you rise. That's when you reclaim the energy you gave away chasing approval, chasing closure, chasing clarity that can never come from outside of you. You no longer need closure when you give yourself permission to move on. You no longer need to control someone else's behavior to feel safe within your own. Letting go is not weakness, it's wisdom. It means you've realized where your power ends and where your peace begins. It means you've learned to stop forcing things and start flowing with what life presents. It means you've accepted that pain will visit, but it doesn't have to stay. That chaos will come, but it doesn't have to define you. That uncertainty will rise, but it doesn't have to paralyze you. You become fluid, adaptable, unshaken, not because you're immune to difficulty, but because you no longer fear it. This is where real freedom lives, in the space between your expectations and your acceptance, in the decision to stop clinging to what you thought should be, and instead embrace what is. Not with defeat, but with determination. Because when you're no longer distracted by the need to control everything, you can finally start building what truly matters. You can finally focus your energy on growth, on healing, on purpose. You can stop trying to force life and start living it, fully, boldly, without apology. Because real strength isn't about holding on. It's about knowing when to let go, and having the courage to do it. Peace doesn't come from a life without problems. It comes from a mind that no longer reacts to them. When you detach from what you can't control, you gain access to the most powerful kind of strength. The strength of calm in the middle of chaos. The kind that doesn't flinch when things fall apart. The kind that doesn't collapse when life doesn't go your way. It's not about pretending nothing affects you. It's about training yourself to respond instead of react, to breathe instead of break, to see pain as a passing wave rather than a permanent storm. That's real power. That's what emotional freedom looks like. You'll start to notice something when you stop trying to manage everything outside of you. The noise gets quieter, the pressure eases. The anxiety that used to haunt your every move begins to fade. Because you're no longer fighting battles that were never yours. You're no longer trying to bend the world into your expectations. You're finally facing life with open hands instead of clenched fists. And that shift changes everything. It's the moment you go from surviving to living, from drowning in worry to floating in clarity. The truth is, most of what you try to control is rooted in fear. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of being abandoned, fear of failing. But fear thrives in the unknown, and trying to control the future is how you avoid the discomfort of uncertainty. But you're not here to live a safe life, you're here to live a real one. One where you can walk forward even when the path is unclear. One where you can trust your next step even if you don't know the full journey. One where your peace comes from within, not from perfect conditions. You can't stop the world from changing. You can't stop people from disappointing you. You can't stop pain from entering your life. But you can stop giving those things the power to own you. That's what detachment really is. It's not apathy. It's not indifference. It's the deepest form of self-respect. It's choosing to protect your energy, to guard your focus, to keep your emotions aligned with your purpose, not pulled in every direction by the chaos around you. It's not about closing your heart. It's about opening it wisely. Detachment gives you room to breathe. It gives you space to grow. It gives you the clarity to see what matters and the courage to release what doesn't. Because not everything deserves your energy. Not everyone deserves your attention. And not every thought deserves to be believed. The more you practice this, the lighter you'll feel. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. And in that strength, you'll discover something incredible. You never needed to control it all to be okay. You just needed to believe that you could handle whatever comes. That belief is where your power begins. That's where freedom starts. And it's already within you. You can't move forward while dragging the weight of everything you wish you could change. That heaviness isn't coming from life. It's coming from resistance. From trying to hold on to things you were meant to release. From clinging to outcomes that were never in your hands. That kind of pressure crushes peace, buries clarity, and steals joy. But you were not born to live under that weight. You were born to rise above it. You were made to let go. Letting go isn't weakness, it's maturity. It's strength. It's the ability to say, this no longer belongs to me, and I will no longer let it take space in my mind. You start to reclaim your power the moment you stop feeding what drains you. The moment you no longer chase closure from people who can't give it. The moment you stop waiting for life to be fair before you allow yourself to be happy. Peace begins the moment you decide to stop fighting battles that don't serve your soul. Every time you try to control what you can't, you lose yourself a little more. But every time you release that need, you return to yourself. That is how healing begins, not by fixing the world, but by releasing the illusion that you ever could. Freedom comes from deciding what is yours to carry and what isn't. You don't need to internalize every comment, every opinion, every situation. Just because someone is angry doesn't mean you have to absorb it. Just because something is falling apart doesn't mean you have to fall with it. You get to stand tall. You get to be still inside, even if everything outside is spinning. That's not denial. That's discipline. Emotional discipline. The kind that gives you room to feel without being ruled. The kind that teaches you how to observe your thoughts without becoming them. Not every thought is true. Not every emotion needs a reaction. You are allowed to pause, to breathe, to rise above the moment and respond with intention instead of impulse. That space between what happens and how you respond, that is where your power lives. And every time you choose not to give your energy to chaos, you get stronger. Every time you refuse to feed your fears, you grow more courageous. You don't need to control the storm. You just need to control your focus within it. There will always be uncertainty, always change, always things beyond your reach. But none of that has to control your life. The greatest power you have is your ability to direct your own energy, to decide what gets your attention and what doesn't. That power is yours, even when everything else feels out of control. So don't waste another moment trying to change what was never yours to change. Shift inward, rise above. Let go, not because you don't care, but because you finally understand that peace isn't found in control. It's found in surrender. And surrender, when done consciously, is the most powerful move you can make. You owe yourself the peace you keep postponing. Not when they apologize, not when the past finally makes sense, not when circumstances become perfect. Now, because peace is not a reward you wait for, it's a decision you make. Right here, in the chaos, in the unknown, in the discomfort. You don't need the world to be silent for you to be still inside. You need the courage to stop seeking stability where it doesn't exist. The world is loud, but your power is found in quiet choices. Choices to protect your energy, to stop answering what disrupts your growth, to stop responding to noise that's never been about you. Every time you choose presence over panic, you create a new life. A life where your emotions don't control your reactions. A life where your peace is not built on the shifting sands of other people's moods, failures, or expectations. When you detach from what you cannot control, you are not giving up, you are rising up. You are choosing clarity over chaos, power over pressure. There is no freedom in trying to force what was never meant to be. There is no strength in gripping what is already gone. You are not weak for letting go. You are wise for no longer bleeding for battles you didn't start. The truth is, peace doesn't arrive when everything aligns outside. It arrives when everything aligns within. When your boundaries become firm. When your values lead your choices. When you finally understand that your time, energy, and focus are not infinite. They are sacred. You don't owe your peace to people who thrive in your confusion. You don't owe explanations to those committed to misunderstanding you. What you owe is to yourself. A life of intention. a mind that can breathe, a heart that doesn't feel pulled in 100 directions by things that are not yours to fix. You are not here to carry the world on your back. You are here to walk your own path with grace and truth. You don't need to validate your peace to others. You only need to protect it. Detaching doesn't mean being cold. It means choosing where your warmth goes. It means refusing to hand your inner stability over to circumstances that change by the hour. The more you anchor within, the less you fear what's beyond you. The storms don't stop, but your foundation strengthens. And that strength doesn't come from force, it comes from release, from learning to stop trying to manage the uncontrollable, and instead master yourself. What you practice, you become. If you practice anxiety, it grows. If you practice presence, it expands. Let this moment be the one where you reclaim the space within you, where you stop replaying what you can't change and start investing in what you can, your focus, your breath, your growth. That is where freedom begins. That is how transformation starts. Not in controlling everything around you, but in becoming unshakable within you. You were never meant to spend your life reacting to things that have nothing to do with your purpose. Every time you chase approval, try to fix what's already broken, or force outcomes that resist your will, you waste your most powerful resource, your presence. You are not here to constantly adjust yourself to accommodate instability. You are not here to dilute your truth to be palatable for people who don't understand your path. You are here to take command of your energy, to stand at the center of your life, rooted, conscious, and deliberate, not pulled in every direction, not drained by every disappointment, but calm, clear, decisive. You can't expect peace if you keep planting your worth in things outside of you. When your sense of self depends on opinions, outcomes, or circumstances, you become a puppet to whatever changes first. But you're not made to live like that. You were built with the capacity to choose where your focus goes, where your energy flows, and what kind of life you create in the silence between all the noise. Detachment is not absence. It is presence without desperation. It is awareness without obsession. It is caring without collapsing. When you realize how much of your mental clutter is a result of holding on to things you were never meant to carry, everything begins to shift. You start to understand that peace isn't passive, it's intentional. You don't stumble into it, you build it. Thought by thought, choice by choice, you decide what matters. You decide what gets your attention. You decide what you allow to take root in your mind and grow into your reality, and what you no longer give power to loses its grip on you. Every emotional trigger you outgrow is a step toward liberation. Every time you pause instead of reacting, breathe instead of lashing out, or observe instead of attaching, you reclaim a part of yourself that once lived in survival mode. This is how the mind becomes free. This is how the heart becomes light. Not by changing the world, but by transforming how you meet it. Not by controlling the waves, but by mastering your stance in the storm. And that mastery begins with refusal, the refusal to be at the mercy of the uncontrollable. You are no longer available for chaos disguised as connection. You are no longer available for cycles that drain your clarity, your confidence, or your capacity to move forward. Detachment is the boundary that reminds you who you are without the noise. It is the space you give yourself to choose intention over reaction, and it is in that space that power is reborn. Not the kind of power that controls others, but the kind that leads you, quiet, steady, unshakable. This is what happens when you stop clinging to what's falling apart and start aligning with what you're meant to become. Let go, not to escape, but to evolve. True strength begins when you no longer need chaos to feel alive. When peace becomes your standard and not a luxury. When clarity becomes your compass, not confusion. You weren't meant to chase everything that moves, to fix everything that breaks, or to explain yourself to every misunderstanding. You were meant to rise above the noise, to breathe above the waterline, and to remember that your value is not dependent on how well you manage the world's dysfunction. It's defined by how well you manage your own alignment. The more you pull your energy back from things that do not feed your growth, the more unstoppable you become. Emotional discipline is the gateway to that freedom, not suppression, but control, not denial, but ownership. The ability to feel deeply without being destroyed by feeling, to acknowledge pain without becoming it, to witness chaos without internalizing it. This is the edge where true power begins, not loud, not forceful, but unmovable. When you no longer argue with what you cannot change, you conserve your energy for what truly matters. You stop giving life to problems that are no longer your responsibility to fix. You stop dancing with dysfunction in the name of loyalty. You stop abandoning yourself to accommodate what keeps breaking you. Every moment you resist the urge to control the uncontrollable is a moment of becoming. Detachment is the practice of staying connected to your peace while the world spins in its patterns. You no longer need to be right. You no longer need to be seen. You no longer need things to go your way to feel whole. You've found your center, and nothing outside of you defines it. That is maturity. That is mastery. That is the mark of someone who has decided to live with intention, not impulse. There will always be noise. There will always be temptation to react, to defend, to prove. But that is no longer your reflex. You have evolved beyond needing validation to know your worth. You have evolved beyond needing control to feel safe. The moment you stop attaching your peace to unpredictable things, you start to feel a strength that can't be touched by circumstance. You become grounded in your values, rooted in your purpose, focused on what elevates rather than drains. You don't need to win battles that no longer align with your future. You don't need to fight for places your soul has outgrown. Let it fall away. Let it unravel. Let what doesn't belong reveal itself through resistance. You are not here to force harmony in environments where your spirit cannot breathe. You are not here to carry the weight of what others refuse to release. You are here to reclaim every fragment of energy you once scattered for approval, control, or certainty. You are here to embody peace, even when the world doesn't offer it. And that begins by letting go of everything that demands you trade your power for temporary comfort. You don't need to hold it all. You only need to hold yourself. There is a quiet power that comes from no longer needing to be everything for everyone. From understanding that your worth isn't proven through overextension. From realizing that boundaries aren't walls, they're doors to your freedom. You're not selfish for protecting your peace. You're not unkind for choosing your own alignment over constant appeasement. There comes a moment where the need to be liked is replaced by the need to be whole, where people-pleasing gives way to soul-preserving. And in that shift, you reclaim energy that was never meant to be constantly drained by trying to be enough in places that never saw you clearly. You're allowed to walk away from chaos, even when it comes dressed as duty. You're allowed to say no without explanation. You're allowed to release the weight of guilt when others try to make your growth uncomfortable for them. Detachment is not cruelty, it's clarity. It's the refusal to sacrifice your emotional and mental well-being for environments that reward dysfunction and punish boundaries. There is nothing noble in staying tied to what keeps you small. There is nothing admirable about suffering in silence to keep others comfortable. You are not here to live on the edge of burnout so others can remain unchanged. Letting go of what you can't control includes the expectations others place on you, the assumptions, the demands, the pressure to perform, to conform, to keep peace at the cost of your truth. You don't owe anyone the version of you that abandons self-respect to maintain connection. Real peace is forged in the fires of self-honesty. When you start choosing what nurtures your evolution over what soothes someone else's ego, you step into a life that feels aligned, not just acceptable. That's not rebellion. That's liberation. The energy you used to spend managing others' emotions, pleasing people, over-explaining, apologizing for being too much or not enough. All of that is power you get to bring back to yourself, to heal, to create, to focus, to move with intention. You were not born to endlessly react. You were born to respond with purpose. Every time you honor what feels right for your inner being, you're rewriting the story that told you you had to be everything to be loved. You don't. You just have to be you, honest, rooted, and no longer willing to betray your own peace for the illusion of belonging. The noise outside will always try to pull you away from yourself. But the more grounded you become, the less it shakes you. You realize not every invitation to chaos requires your attendance. Not every opinion deserves a seat in your mind. The world may not always respect your detachment, but your soul will. And in the silence that follows your release of what no longer serves, you will hear the most powerful voice of all, your own. And that voice will not ask you to fix everything. It will ask you to come home to yourself, over and over again.